Greetings, everyone. This is People Knows, your host, your friend, your coach. Today, welcome for another wonderful episode of the Lizard Art with a new guest here, Nakula Diaz from the beautiful tropical Nova Scotia, Canada. And yeah, we connected to our dear common friend, Shani Lee from Australia. She talked a lot of good stuff about you and said, you need to have this guy on the podcast. You need to have the guy on the podcast, not once, not twice, but multiple times. Finally, we connected last week. And here today, 7 o'clock in the morning, well, 7:21 Thursday morning for you, Nakula. It's Wednesday evening. What time is it there? Eight
Yeah, eight
one.
8:20. Yeah, 8:21 my time.
Awesome, awesome. And we're here to share your story. And just in a nutshell, from the chat that we had and from what you told me, you're doing something really, really fascinating, and that is helping men master the sexual energy and how what is the ramifications of that in every areas of the lives and so on and so forth. So we're gonna deep dive. So I can't even speak this morning. We're gonna dive deeper into the all of these. So without any further ado, Nakula, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you, man. I appreciate the opportunity and to connect and chat with you.
Pleasure on mine. So we're gonna talk about your business, your impact, and all that good stuff in a moment. But first and foremost, I want to know who's Nakula as a man, as a human being, and as a person.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's it's an interesting question and every time I get asked that question, it should be a simple answer,
Yes.
but it really depends on the angle we look at. So overall, I'm just a guy like most guys, just a regular dude that figured out a few things in my own journey, which was one that I am, soul, that ultimately, that I am a soul, I'm a spirit. And when I realized this in myself, it changed the game for me. It changed what it means to be human. It changed what it means to be alive. And ever since that moment, which happened for me about 12 years ago, I've been on a journey of seeking, bettering myself, and ultimately, finding ways to help and serve others in the best of my capacity and ability.
Awesome, awesome. We're gonna unpack all of that in a moment. But first and foremost, I'd like to ask you a series of rapid fire questions to further get to know you as a man, as a human being. Ready?
I'm ready.
All right. What makes you happy?
Serving others.
What makes you smile?
Comedy.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. What makes your heart sing? What sets your soul on fire?
Seeing people realize who they are at a deeper aspect of themselves and achieve greater awareness within themselves.
Love that. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, what makes you sad and angry?
Seeing people waste the human form of life on
Mm.
fruitless activities.
I'm with you on that. What scares you?
Not reaching my full potential.
Mm. What would you say is your number one personal superpower?
Being able to take complex ideas and deliver them in a simple, understandable way.
Mm. What is one thing that you would die for?
One thing I would die for, truth.
Truth. Wow. Love that. What are your three non-negotiable core values?
Faith, family, freedom.
Mm. Love that. When was the last time you had a really, 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 really good laugh? The type that makes you roll on the floor, your cheeks hurting, tears coming, your tummy aching. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Um, Maybe like a day or two ago, last night, I was
Wow.
sitting there with a friend of mine who's a pastor, and we had just some great laughs. I tend to laugh a lot.
That's good. Laugh is the best medicine in the world.
Yeah, it's also unique to humans. Well, I guess that's not true. We've seen other animals laugh, but we can have those like deep belly laughs like you're talking about, right?
Absolutely. I heard a while ago a doctor say that if every doctor in the world would make 1 hour of mandatory laughing and smiling to every human being on this planet, within 30 days, 90 to 95% of all ailments would be gone.
Wow. I could believe it. I mean, think about how much we know statistically stress kills. Or stress is the biggest challenge on the planet, and
Yes.
laughter is the direct cure to that.
Yeah. I still love watching some of those. I grew up in France, French comedy, even cartoons. You know,
Mm.
I make a time every day to, for at least for a few minutes, just to laugh.
Yeah,
Something.
sometimes I was gonna say sometimes, yeah, when if my wife is like, "Oh, what should we watch today?" And depending, let's say I've had more of a stressful day or just tired, like, "Oh, you just put on something funny. Put on a comedy, put on something funny." And it's just a great way just to relax and, make sure you have a good laugh.
That's it. All right, cool. Let's move on. You like traveling, do you?
Yes, I do.
All right, we can do an entire episode just on traveling, but now I'd like to take you down a different type of traveling, down memory lane. Go
Okay.
back to when you were growing up as a kid. When we're kids, people around us, family, relatives, neighbors, teachers, kids around us ask us, "Hey, Nakula, what do you want to become when you grow up?" What was your answer to that as a little boy?
I think it changed at different times, but the first thing that comes to mind was a paleontologist.
Wow.
I was inspired by the movie Jurassic Park,
Oh, yeah.
and I had this whole phase of just getting super obsessed with dinosaurs. And I could tell you all the different types of dinosaurs, and I had dinosaur subscription magazines. And so I think for a long time, I wanted to be a paleontologist.
Well, what's your favorite dinosaur?
My favorite dinosaur, T-Rex,
Oh, yeah.
king.
All the way. King of the dinosaurs. Okay, cool. Cool, cool, cool. Growing up, what was your relationship with school? Did you love school or hate school?
I loved going to school because I love being around people
Mm.
and I didn't like to go to class. I was the type of guy who would love to go to school, showed up at every class, but distracted the class because I just wanted to talk and socialize.
What was your favorite subject?
Religion and history,
Cool. Was there any topic that you could not stand?
math.
Welcome to the club. Was it because you didn't like numbers? Was it because a teacher put you off?
Yeah, I think just because I struggled personally with math. And
Mhm.
then I did a couple years, I did really good. Grade 10, I did really good. And of course, the teachers made a difference. But overall, I just found math to be my brain just didn't calculate it. I have more like abstract thinking.
Yeah.
But you know what? I was sitting at the airport one time, and I got into a conversation with a lady next to me. And I said to her, "What do you do?" And she says, "I'm a math teacher." And I said, "Oh my goodness, I suck at math." And she said, "No, you don't." And I said, "What?" I said, "No, I always struggled in math." She said, "No, no, no. Math is just solving problems. You just weren't taught in a way that resonates or makes sense to you." And she really changed my perspective. And I'll tell you, as an entrepreneur, I love math because I can manage my cash flow well, and I can do things with math. And actually, it's something that I've over time have really seen, obviously, the value, just tremendous value, of course, in being good at math. Um, but yeah, overall, she helped me change my perspective. Say, well, math, you're not good at math. It's just that your mindset around it isn't allowing you to really understand what math really is. Math isn't about numbers. Math is about solving problems.
That's it. That's it. Yeah, wow. Imagine if you were in the same class in grade 10, 11. What kind of student were you? Were you the shy one, the quiet one, the chatterbox, the
I
superstar?
was definitely Yeah, I was definitely the chatterbox and the guy who could um just distract the heck out of everybody, make everybody laugh, have a good time. At the same time, people followed me. I think I was always a natural leader, and
Mm,
that was either looked upon as a skill or a problem, depending on the authority figure of the day, the teacher of the day.
Oh yeah. When you were in school, were you popular with the ladies?
Was I popular with the ladies? You know what? I was obliviously popular with the ladies. What that means is like chicks like me or certain women like me or certain girls like me. But I wouldn't know till later. People would be like, "Oh my gosh, she was totally digging you." And I was like, "Really?" Oh, I didn't catch that. So I'm not really sure, you know. And I had a steady girlfriend through high school.
Mm. What was your first job?
I worked at Zellers, so if people don't know what Zellers is, like Walmart. It's the Canadian version of Walmart, no longer exists.
Yeah.
But I worked at Zellers. I was a stock. I used to clean the shelves and such, and then I worked at the customer service desk, which was quite interesting, taking returns. That was an education in people and you know what people do to scam.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Do you remember how much you get paid for that first job?
Yeah, I think it was $8.75, just
Wow.
like a quarter, thinking above minimum wage at the time.
Where was that? Was that in Nova Scotia or Ontario?
I was in Ontario. Yeah.
Where about Toronto?
Mississauga, Square One,
Wow.
Mississauga. Yeah,
Okay.
the Zellers at Square One, if anyone's familiar. Yeah,
Okay. So you're West Side boy. I'm an East Side boy. Okay.
yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. 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 Wow. Moving on. If you were to look at your life from the time you left school to now, how would you describe it? Would you say it was pretty much once you get into one lane, one path, you were set for life, straightforward, smooth sailing was more like a turns and twists and roller coaster and all.
Yeah, I would say turns and twists and roller coaster. I actually out of college, right around college age, I started rapping. I was a rapper named Token, T-O-K apostrophe, and I actually released an independent record. We sold maybe like, 500,000 copies. I put
Really?
on a music video called Breaking the Game, and I toured across Canada. I was the number one hip hop touring artist at the time, which was kind of like incredible at the time because there wasn't a lot of hip hop clubs, but I had linked up with some rock guys and I kind of did this fusion which allowed me to play in front of a lot of different audiences too. So I had a kind of an interesting audience. So I was in the music industry for a good 4 or 5 years. And then after that, I've started multiple business, anything from cleaning company, which was my first company, network marketing business, and then got me into coaching. And that led me down a tremendous spiritual path and me finding myself. And then of course I dealt with things like I was really addicted to marijuana for many of my years, like a heavy weed smoker, drinking. um I went through what they call like a consumer proposal, so it wasn't a full bankruptcy, but basically I had to negotiate all my debts and such.
Mm.
Yeah, man, I've been through a lot in that sense. But each lesson, just bringing me closer and closer to what I do today. So I'd say it was a roller coaster, but looking back, I really feel like everything has shaped me into who I am today and what I do today, where I'm really content, happy, successful in many areas of my life, and just feel like I feel today I'm on a straight path and very clear on who I am and what I'm about.
Absolutely. I completely agree with that because, for me, the way I view life is, for me, life is a buffet. Buffet in the
Mm.
sense to try not only the dishes, but also all kinds of experiences. Just like you, I've done many, many, many different things that are completely unrelated. But then if you look at them from a higher perspective, the skills you learned, the people you met, the lessons you acquired in the process, all of those prepare you for your next chapter. Nothing happens randomly in life. Let's say tomorrow
Yeah,
you
that's right.
pick up pickleball, for example. Silly example. You'll meet people, you will, you know, connections, and that's gonna open the next chapter of your life. Nothing is random,
Yeah,
you know.
that's right. Like, yeah, absolutely. And again, in retrospect, it's easy to see that. And with some wisdom and some knowledge and coming into certain, aspects or perspectives, it's like you can see that, I truly believe actually God has been like guiding and molding me. But at the same time, I think He allows me to make choices. And so I think you can go the straight path or you can go the long path, depending. I'm, a bit hard-headed. I'll do it my own way. I got this. Right. And so, you go down a certain road and maybe it doesn't lead to where you want to go, but there's certainly a ton of lessons. And there was one of my mentors said to me one time, said, experience itself doesn't bring wisdom, but debrief experience, meaning the lessons are there, but only if you take the time to maybe be a bit introspective and think about it. And, I've been fortunate to be around really great mentors and coaches for a long time in my life. And, they've just poured into me. I say, like, I don't believe in the saying self-made.
No,
I just don't believe it. It's like, no, I'm not self-made. I stand on the backs of my teachers and my gurus and my mentors who poured tons into me. And so, any success that I have had, I credit to my teachers and those who help lift me up.
I agree completely. Not only the teachers, the mentors, but also the team around you because of the
Oh,
teamwork,
100%.
you know?
Yeah.
Wow, absolutely. You mentioned that you were a rapper. Tell us more about that. That's fascinating.
Yeah, yeah. So okay, so one of my first businesses, I was 17 and I started a ceramic store in the flea market in Toronto, and I was selling little ceramics and doing horrible, losing money every month. But I there was a guy next to me and he said he was selling satellite TV subscriptions.
Wow.
And he taught me the concept of residual income or passive income. He said, he taught me, like, he said, you sell this ceramic once and you get paid once. He says, but every time I sell a TV subscription, I get paid every single month because people have to pay their subscriptions each month. And I was like, oh, like a musician, like royalties. And he said, yeah, it's exactly that. And I thought, oh, cool. And I kind of just had a natural knack for marketing and promotion. And I growing up, I was into breakdancing.
Wow.
So growing up in elementary stuff, I was into the hip hop scene, really loved hip hop and, just the whole vibe. And so I remember calling some buddies of mine who were like, doing some underground rapping. And I said, hey, man, you guys want a manager? I can manage you. I'll book you gigs. I'll, see what I can do, that type of thing. And I was trying to get some residual income and, use I had a natural inclination for, again, promoting. And so, I was talking to them and they were doing a lot of this underground style. And I kept saying to them, man, we're never going to get on radio with this type of music that you guys put out, right? It's just too, like, it's not, doesn't have a good enough beat, doesn't have, people can't dance to it, this type of thing. And I don't think they really appreciated that, but I just felt it was the truth. I had, like, again, I was like, nah. I said, you know what? And I couldn't find a group that I could properly manage. So I decided, screw this. I'm gonna do it
You like
myself.
it.
And
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I'll just make my own music. And so I remember I recruited my brother who was like messing around on these like computer program beats. I was like, make me a couple beats. I'm gonna do this thing. I put together a small demo, 3 songs on this crappy computer mic and some beats. And I was so bold, and they say like sometimes just raw boldness can get you places. I was so bold. I walked into Universal Records. I walked into
Wow.
like BMG and was like, "Hey man, here's my demo. Who can who do I talk to?" Had no idea, had no idea what I was doing. Had no idea that the music was absolutely horrible. And I sent it to I sent it out to all these labels, and of course nobody answered and such. Except one guy, because I kept calling him, and I was like, "Hey, did you listen to it? Listen to it." So finally, he's like, "Yeah, I listened to it," and he's like, It's really bad, man. It's really, really bad." He goes, however, he's like, we have this thing called like a development program. He's like, it's, you pay for it. It's like, blah, blah, blah. He's like, but basically, if you want to come down and chat, like, you seem to be like kind of like serious. So come down and chat. And, I went and my brother went and had a conversation with him. And eventually, we went and we said, yeah, man, let's do this thing. And we did this deal where he basically worked with me for close to a year and a half, teaching me how to breathe, how to have cadence, tone. I'm tone deaf. Like, I have no
Mm,
musical talent. But what that era taught me was you can really do anything if you put your mind to it. Now,
mm,
if you have more musical talent, or if you have a talent, it's better, in my opinion, to nourish your natural gifts than going against the grain. But even if with me, I had zero talent, and we signed a deal. We got a distribution deal. We cut a record. We put a $30,000, and at the time that was super expensive, $30,000 music video together.
Wow.
I got to like play and open up for some really big acts and such. So, in 3, 4 years, 5 years, I got to do some really cool stuff that really talented musicians never do. And I remember my producer always saying, man, I wish these guys with talent had your work ethic and boldness. He's like, if they
Ah.
with the talent had your work ethic and your like just willingness to go and get out there, he's like they would be super successful. And I think he's right. There's a truth behind that we're naturally gifted for certain things. So yeah, I did this rapping thing. I cut a record. It was a lot of fun. Just one of the greatest experiences, taught me a lot. It's also where I picked up like my weed habit, and it's
Mm.
also where I would say a lot of I would say my journey to sexual mastery unknowingly
Oh.
started there.
Mm.
Because at that point, what I always said, what distracted me the most, because I got onto radio and everything, and I was doing, and then I started touring. And it's when I started touring that things started really going downhill because I started drinking and doing a lot of drugs and started chasing girls. And I started partying. I fell in love with the partying more than the music. I
Mm.
started falling in love with that instead of what we were at, and I got cloudy and I lost track. And I would say that actually, in a way, it sent me down the wrong path, or the path of destruction and self-destruction and negative habits and drugs and alcohol and chasing women and all that stuff. So in a way, as the pendulum swing the other way, it kind of helped serve me because I got to see what that life is and how it really just leads to a lot of emptiness and
Mm.
broke bank accounts, addiction, and like just nothing, fruitless, just fruitless waste of time.
Mm. So what made you say leave the music industry and not persist until you get your big break?
I think I kind of knew like I'm not really like a rapper. Like I'm not like this is not like a natural inclination for me. I think I just ran out of money too, so it was just like and then I had this like kind of feeling of like I don't want to be like I don't want to be like that broke artist. I don't want to like I had enough, let's say, foresight to go. I don't think I'm gonna be the next Eminem. So I think this is probably not for me, and that's when I started actually pursuing like other entrepreneurial ventures.
Cool. And now that you're at a different stage of your life, are you still doing some rapping, some singing? Are you having thoughts maybe now that you have the wisdom and the financial means, maybe let's give it another crack? Huh?
Uh, I preach. Maybe that's kind of like rapping, right? I do like, I do this
Yes.
weekly inspirational at my local church, and I do a lot of podcasts. So if
Mm.
that's kind of like rapping, and I think that rapping has given me like even when I talk, I have a certain cadence, a certain way of doing it
Yeah.
that tends to go well. And that's all I would say that's not that has come from my rapping days. So no, I don't ever suspect that I will cut another record, but I'm kind of rapping in my own way.
Do you sometimes rap with friends, some evenings together? Hey, let's yo, bro, come on. Give us some rap, you know?
Yeah, no. Actually, it's kind of like embarrassing. Yeah, sometimes people will put me on the spot, right? Be like, "Come on, man, drop a line and stuff," and I'm like, "I'm so
Yeah.
bad at." Yeah. I mean, here's the truth. I don't even listen to rap music anymore. I can't stand 99% of it, right? So it's like it's so funny how like we change in our and we get attuned to different things. Like sometimes like I was a big 50 Cent fan growing up,
Oh yeah.
right? Like it was a
Oh
big, I was a big like I kind of grew up in the G Unit era,
yeah.
right? Like, Eminem, Dr. Dre, G Unit. And I was huge. I remember I saw G Unit in concert, and I was a
Yeah.
huge 50 fan. And I actually still am a huge 50 Cent fan,
Oh,
but not
yeah.
for the same reasons. I really love his transformation. He's a big business guy now. His audio, hustle harder. I think it's called Hustle Smarter, Not Harder, or something like this. It's fantastic. And
Yeah.
he's open about his he's been 10 years celibate,
Mm.
and he talks about like women and celibacy and chastity as part of his staying focused and why he's so successful. So I still respect 50, but n not from a rapping perspective. I mean, he's still fantastic in my
Yeah.
opinion in that regards. But I have a lot of respect for him for different reasons. But yeah, I can't even listen to hip hop some of it's okay, but I just listen to the lyrics and I kind of laugh now. I'm like, oh, this is funny, right? Like how I used to think this was so cool. And now I just my ears are just no longer attuned to it, where I'm just like,
Mhm.
I just don't find it appealing.
Wow. What how did you get into the path you're on right now, your current business, especially when it comes to helping men, go through their own healings?
Yeah, yeah. I always say you don't go to your guidance counselor and like, you know what I'd like to do when I grow up? Teach men to retain their semen. Right, right,
You would have
yeah.
been laughed out of school if you were to say that back then, especially the 90s, you know?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, oh, yeah. I'm laughed at now, right? Like at least, I've been made fun of all over the world in major news articles and such, and so how I got into this though is so as I mentioned, like, spirituality's been an important part of my
Mhm.
life. And actually, so you talk about like after rapping and all of that kind of era went down, I had a bit of like an identity crisis. So,
Hmm.
when you give to like at that rapping era of my life, I lived it. Like I was Token. Like people would even call me Token, like it was like that's who I am. And then when that all wound down and all I was left with was, with addiction and partying habits and no fame and no royalties and no nothing, I had to like rediscover myself. I had to realize, well, like I guess that's not who I am. And that's it's difficult. I don't know if you're familiar. You said like French. Thierry Henry.
Yeah,
He's
of course. Thierry Henry, yeah.
right. Yeah,
One
from
of my favorite
France, right?
players, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I actually saw a little podcast, a little clip with him, and he talked about like when his like he's past his prime and winding down from being a big football star and soccer star. And he talked about like no one prepares you for like life afterwards. Like you go
Mhm.
from being this big footballer and selling posters and playing in front of 50,000 people to the next day kind of like, yeah, man, like you got to stand in line to get your tickets with everybody else, and nobody cares like who you are anymore. And your whole identity is wrapped up in like, I'm a footballer and now I'm not. So he said it was interesting, and many athletes and people go through this, and I kind of went through that myself because I was like so engrossed in like I'm gonna be this rapper and I'm gonna do this thing, and then it just didn't happen, and then I left, and then I was left like kind of going, well, who am I then? If I'm not this, then who am I actually? And that's when I started getting at the time myself and Sarah, which is my wife today, we were just starting to date, and she used to live across from a Buddhist temple. And we used to
Wow.
sit there and we'd get all high and such, and then be like, look at the Buddhist temple and be like, I wonder what they do in there, like I wonder what happens in there. And we kind of had just a natural inclination to spirituality. I grew up Catholic. I was always a big fan of Jesus, and um, but I didn't really find much like spiritual growth within the Catholic setting. Maybe some people do. For me, I didn't. I know everybody's different, and I respect everybody's journey and path. And so point is that I got into it because I started getting curious about spirituality and personal development. I actually joined a network marketing company, and they had a big culture of personal development, leadership. They talked about leadership, leadership, leadership. And I started listening to tapes or CDs at the time of John Maxwell, and Darren Hardy and all these leadership experts, guys like Brian Tracy, Jim Rohn, Tony Robbins. And I would be listening to all of this, leadership and personal development. And I thought, wow, this is like really good stuff. And, I was trying to implement it as best as I can. And over the years, just to make a long story short, I recognized like I need to clean up my life. So I
Hmm.
stopped drinking. I went through a tremendous battle on and off with smoking weed, not smoking weed, smoking weed, not smoking weed. And then finally I was able to conquer that and get that out of my life. And then I got into like a lot of yogic practices, a lot of Eastern philosophy. I spent time in the Hare Krishna community. It's where I got the name Nakula Das. I was given that name by a monk, and there was a big push on making sure if like one of the principles that we follow is in that tradition or in that footsteps is called no illicit sex,
No.
right? Like don't sleep around, control yourself in that way, and I thought, okay, no problem. I'm, with Sarah, that's no problem. But then I found myself like, watching a lot of pornography and masturbating a lot. And as I kept learning more, I got introduced through the process of Ayurveda, this concept of semen retention, where, basically, and actually I was introduced first to the concept through the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill,
Yes. Sexual transmutation.
right? So
The entire chapter.
that's
Yes.
right. Yes, that's right. So the mystery of sex transmutation is where I first got introduced to this concept that your sexual energy can actually be expressed in three different ways or three different outlets. So he talks about that physical expression is one outlet of sexual energy, but that sexual energy is creative power and life force, and it actually can put you onto higher frequencies if it's transmuted. He talks about the second expression being great health and vitality and tons of energy, and the third expression being higher vibrational frequency and the ability to magnetize and attract, really power, level up your thoughts and open up intuition and tap into what he called infinite intelligence. And then this concept, as it was introduced to me, it was starting to like, it's like I was starting to get like different sources of this type of concept. And then through the yogis, there's a particular book in the yogic tradition called Bhagavad Gita. And Bhagavad Gita is a spiritual text. And there's a particular line where there's two main characters of Bhagavad Gita, Arjun, which represents like the individual soul, and
Mhm.
Krishna in that tradition represents God. And so Arjun is asking God basically, why do men go astray? Like, why do we go off the path of like a good life and righteousness? And why do we go astray? And interesting answer is Krishna says, lust only, Arjun. And from lust, and then he gives this whole domino effect. He Krishna says like from lust comes envy and comes anger and comes frustration. And when we can't satisfy our lust, we become angry and frustrated. And then if that happens, then we fall into like animal consciousness. We fall into really degraded forms of life. And and there's the time like I was really angry and frustrated. Like I would just walk around angry and frustrated. And I never equated it to my lust until understanding these teachings. And then I recognized, oh my gosh, because I grew up Catholic, right? And in the Catholic tradition, they're like, masturbation is sin, no sex before marriage, blah, blah, blah. And I'm sitting there in church going, but she's so hot, like, and the whole cult, right? Like, you're telling me, like, look at her, she's beautiful, right? And my whole biology is telling me, do this, and you're telling me don't do this, and nobody was talking about it. To me, it was all just surface. Like, you have like two main narratives. This is what I see in the world: two main narratives. You've got the hard religious narrative that's like, don't do it, sex is sin, sex is bad, totally ignore it. But then at the same time, they're like, go have a lot of babies. I'm like, well, I need sex for that. Like, what?
Pray
This
the
is so
seed.
confusing.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is so confusing. What you're telling me and my biology is like, is totally like in conflict. So I just found like a lot of conflict. And so I kind of just was like, ignore that. And then mainstream culture, especially in today's world, man, it's telling you go nuts, right? Like
Especially
masturbate, watch
hookup,
porn, swing, do all these things.
with the hookup culture and all that, it's even getting out of hand.
Yeah, hookup culture, Tinder, like how much, what's your body count and all these like,
Oh,
and it just seems to get like progressively worse and worse in that sense. So you have two main narratives. You've got this like almost repressive narrative, and then you've got this like just go nuts, and it's not treated sacred at all or nothing, just like just it's all about your body count and hooking up. And I did some of that, and I did, and I found it to be quite like, I mean, I remember like sleeping with a woman, let's say a one night stand, and immediately as soon as I was done, just wanting to get out of there, feeling empty. Any guy, honest guy,
Yeah.
will tell you, like,
Mhm.
it'd be like you just want to book it because there's something inherently knowing, ugh, like, people call it the post nut clarity, right? Where it's like, soon as you're done, you're like, oh shit,
The morning when you wake
what
up,
did I
say,
just
what the
do?
hell? Oh, the morning when you wake up with someone say, what is this? Who are you?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
How did I end up here? Come on.
Yeah, yeah, you just want to book it as quick as you can, right? You're like, oh
And,
man, what the heck, right? And so, it's like, like, hey, like, no judgment. I've been there. I'm not talking as a saint. I'm talking from experience. I'm talking because I've tried to live both lives. In fact, I tried to be the hardcore monk.
mhm,
And I've done the whole, like, experimenting with sex, and, and all of this type of thing. And what would polyamory be, and what would swinging be,
mhm,
and what would porn, and I've experienced the wide ranges of different lifestyles. And here's what I came to understand, and it goes back to transmutation. It goes back to, I think Napoleon Hill really nails it. If you really read that chapter, I think he really nails it, which he talks about that it's not meant to be suppressed. You can't just suppress that energy, because if you suppress it, it's going to come out in the most nasty ways. And
mhm.
we know, like, sometimes religious institutions, whichever one, I'm not harping on one or the other, have done some of the worst things when it comes to sexual misbehavior, right? Some of the nastiest stuff has been done, by religious, institutions, or heads, by not the institution itself, but people. Um,
Yeah.
and then you've got the modern hookup culture, and it's in our movies and music. And so in my journey, I'm learning about the benefits of retaining, the power of actually, like, controlling that energy, and what it does for us spiritually and mentally, and how much the Sanskrit word is vira, potency it gives you, strength, masculinity as well, how it affects testosterone, how it affects our, as men, how it affects our psychology, how we perform and how we can control our sexual energy directly impacts our psychology. So I started learning about it on all, and I've just, like, the last 8 years of my life, I've just been down this rabbit hole. I'm still down this rabbit hole of, like, learning and discovering all the different ways that sexuality has been viewed, from wisdom traditions to modern science to culture to different cultures. And so I got into this path of actually helping guys master their sexual energy, which simply means to be fully in control of your energy, and to learn to actually progress in that mastery. And that means three things.
Mhm,
One, giving up pornography and
mhm,
masturbation. Second is learning to change our relationship with sex from fucking to making love and to
mhm.
intimacy. Like, it's even in our language, right? Like I used to be like, I used to, oh yeah, we fuck this, we fuck, and now I'm very conscious to be like, well, when I make love to my wife, when I'm intimate with my wife, and from going from wanting to just bang women to sex is sacred, and I'm only going to share myself and this energy with someone I love. And because there's a whole psychology and a bonding process when,
Mhm.
that happens when you actually share yourself. And the reason why so many people feel so empty is because they're bonding themselves with so many people, even subtly, even if you're looking on the apps and you're swiping left and swiping right and doing all that stuff, to then the higher levels of sexual transmutation, which is, how do you use this energy to rock life? How do you use this energy, as Napoleon Hill talked about, to excel? And what I started learning is some of the top people, like athletes, do this,
Oh,
you know, big time, right? When they asked Muhammad Ali, what's your secret to being a champion? His answer was being in bed at 9 p.m. alone, dodging the parties and the girls, right? He said, look, we all box. I train, they train. They hit the pads, I hit the pads. What makes me greatest is that I am chaste. I control myself.
Mm.
Um, Fighters know this, athletes know this. Steve Jobs is documented by his partner saying that he would have non-ejaculatory sex, and he would even say, "I need to keep that for my wealth and power." He also died with Autobiography of a Yogi, which is a huge influence on me. That book, by his bedside. Nikola Tesla. Now, Nikola Tesla was a celibate and talked about how, it was so important to use that energy for his inventions. Um, King Solomon, like it just goes on and on and on. The Chinese Emperor of all of these men
Mm.
who reached tremendous amounts of elite success. When they asked Winston Churchill, "Why are you so successful?" He said, "Because I don't chase women."
Brother, I had a couple of life-changing epiphanies around the topic of sex. One is sex is not just a physical act, it's an exchange of energy. And by that, I mean you inherit all the traumas, vibes of the person. If it's just a one night stand, once I understood that, it changed my view. I used to just, party, chase girls and all that. But now
Yep.
I completely stopped that. Another epiphany I had was, you know, if I were, there's a question that says, what is the number one piece of advice you give to your 18-year-old self? For me, would be
Mm.
do not chase girls because I've spent so much. If you look at the average guy, we spend so much time, effort, resources just for what? And just like I said, just the post-nut clarity, say, what the hell was I thinking about? The ROI is not there. If you were to put
Yeah.
that energy into something else, there's one guy that I follow, very smart young guy, but extremely successful, Luke Belmore from the
Oh,
US, now
yes.
lives in Dubai. He's literally crushing in like eight-figure month, you know?
Yeah,
And his secret is he has one steady girlfriend. He doesn't party, he doesn't drink, he doesn't chase girls.
that's right.
I
Yeah.
said,
You,
wow.
you know, Alex Harmozy,
Oh, yes.
right?
Who
So he's
doesn't know
big.
Alex Hormozi nowadays?
That's right. Yeah, right. Big. He's big, right? So Alex, I saw a video. Someone sent me a video of him talking about um that the greatest gift that happened was when he got married.
Mm.
He said because he said, all this prospecting, right? Like sales prospecting. He said about 30% of his energy, was prospecting women,
Oh,
answering messages on the apps, and like think of all that
scheduling.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, getting your profile right, dude, all of that energy, all of that time. He said, so when he got married, he gained all that time and attention back where now he could prospect and work on his business and flourish, right? And that's the point. Some people mistake, they think like they hear my message and they think, one, I'm anti-sex or something. I'm not. I'm actually pro-sex, healthy sex. I was
Uh,
like, have a great sex life,
Sacred
but
sex.
sacred sex, yeah, but let's restore, some of the sacredness in it. Like back in the day, what we used to tell kids, hey, this is something you do with somebody you love, right? Don't just we don't tell that kids that
Uh,
anymore. We have a whole different message now, which is crazy. And so, I like the acronym of sex, sacred energy exchange,
oh, let
right?
me put this down. Yeah.
Yeah, sex, sacred energy exchange. And so it's like, what are you going to spend your time on? When you asked me at the beginning of the episode, which was what makes you upset, and I said people wasting the human form of life. So there's four basic activities that come with the body: eating, sleeping, comfort or defending ourselves, and sex. The animals do it, the humans do it. So there's nothing wrong with sex. There's nothing wrong with eating, sleeping, having some sex, this type of thing. But as a human, what makes us different than the animals is we don't have to just spend our time on the base desires. We have
Mhm.
higher desires. We can create economy and wealth. We can create culture. We can create art. We can do podcasts and we could do philosophy. We could like think about all the amazing things that human beings have created. Look at those people and you will see one of two things. They were either married and were committed in that relationship, so they spent their time creating other things, or they were high level kind of in a way they didn't spend time chasing chicks, basically. And there's a comment as I started to learn this and see this, I recognized how much of my energy, and the worst part now is we're not even chasing chicks. We're just watching them on camera,
Or some other
you know?
dude doing what we want to do, you know? That's the worst.
Yeah. Yeah, now we're just voyeurs. Now we're not even chasing chicks. Now we're just on the hub or paying some webcam girl or OnlyFans chick or something like
Oh,
this. And it's just like, oh my gosh, like how much of your energy being your time, your attention, your money, let's say you're spending 20, 30% of your time, energy, money on this, and you were to take that and redirect it, transmute it, as Napoleon Hill said, into your finances, into your business, into your creativity, your athletics, your whatever's important to you, whatever's your individual expression. Think about how much you would accelerate. And not only that, but there's power in sexual energy because it is our base desire, it is our basic motivation to reproduce. If we can harness that and pour it in that same drive, I say every guy knows, right? You could be dead tired, and then you get the butt wiggle, or she says, yeah, come on over. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. And all of a sudden you're like, I got a ton of energy. Yeah, I'm coming over, right? Or, right. It's like, imagine taking that same force, that same drive, that same energy, and now pursuing something worthy of your life. And also, one of the things I challenge my students with is it's a self-worth thing.
mhm.
When a man controls his sexual energy, when he's not loose, we generally talk about that from a women's perspective. Like, oh, she's respects herself, so she's not loose, right? But it's actually the same thing for men.
Oh, big
When
time.
we're not loose, what we're actually saying to ourselves is, hey, I value myself. We talk about being a high value man. That's like a popular line now, right?
Oh,
Being a
yeah.
high value man.
Yeah.
And some guys are saying high value men sleep around a lot. And I challenge that. And I'm like, that's actually the opposite of value. Anything that's really valuable is generally rare. So
Mhm.
if you sleep around a lot, what you're saying is you're available a lot. You're actually the opposite of valuable.
Mhm.
Value means you hold that energy sacred. And what you're essentially saying into your deep psychology, into your own subconscious mind is, I'm valuable. And when you hold yourself like that, guess what? You're then going to charge more for your services because you know the value you bring. You're going to attract people that actually respect your value because the world sees you as you see yourself. They're going to go, man, this guy's got something about him. You're going to also, if you're single or you want to be in a relationship with a good woman or good partner, then you're going to track that because you're holding the vibration or energy of value as within, so without.
Yes.
So the way we treat our sexual energy says a lot about where we are at consciously. And
Mhm.
because I'm passionate about having people really raise their consciousness and expand themselves and get to know themselves as more than just an animal and base desires, but who you are at a deeper level, you must go down the journey of mastering your sexual energy if you're really serious about that.
Absolutely. This is so powerful. This is the kind of information that I wished not only for me to be exposed to it when I was in high school, but this should be mandatory teaching for boys in high school. Seriously.
100%. Back in more ancient cultures, they understood this.
Mm,
We're like we think we're a sex express society, but
mm,
I actually say we're sex suppressed, and that's why pornography and all this stuff is so
yes.
prevalent because we've made it secret and taboo, and it's like, but actually in more ancient cultures understood this. In the Vedic culture specifically, they had a concept called brahmachari, which is basically boys would go and live all boys school, um would be sense controlled or celibate to the age of 25 before they entered married life. And the reason why wasn't to suppress them, it was so that they were controlled, so that
Mm,
when a woman came into their life, they could handle the responsibility of being a good husband, being a father, being a provider, a protector. Because as men, we have to be sense controlled as well as sensitive. Sensitive doesn't mean a pushover or gushy or all that. Sensitive means I'm sensitive to the needs of the people around me. I'm not going to just sleep with a woman because she's drunk or she's available. I'm going to be sensitive to what she actually needs. I'm not going to take advantage of women. I'm going to protect women and children. I'm going to be a great provider. I can make good financial decisions. I can lead my household. We are I say like our mission is why help men master their sexual energy so that we can create better husbands, fathers, family men, businessmen, politicians, congregation leaders. Because when men are mastered in their sexual energy, they do well at whatever vocation or whatever they decide is important to them. They do better. And the family nucleus is the core to our society. And
Mhm.
right now we're losing family traditions and we're losing the family core. And a lot of it comes back to we're just chasing our balls rather than being led by our heart and leading
Mhm.
from our heart. We're leading from our balls. That's a problem.
I couldn't agree more, brother. I couldn't agree more. Yeah, this is very sad the way things are going. But the good news is that more and more people are waking up, more and more people are getting exposed to this kind of information, like you, like me, like other. We have a platform that we can reach more men. So tell us about your impact, your business. How are you changing lives around you and around the world with this divine knowledge that you have now?
Yeah, thank you. So our we are making impact because first of all, we've got several different trainings for depending where a man is starting. So if somebody is like, if you're listening to this and you're thinking, man, I think porn's got me. I think I'm watching too much. Then we start there. Let's get rid of pornography. Let's get rid of the OnlyFans. Let's get rid of the webcam girls. I've helped guys stop going to massage parlors, stop going to strip clubs, guys that are into, getting paid for sex. If I help many men stop that and be able to rekindle healthy relationship with their sexuality. Second aspect we're making impact is because pornography specifically has such a detrimental effect on our hormones and our health. We have things like porn induced erectile dysfunction,
Oh,
men
yes.
also men not being able to hold hard erections, also men not being able to last longer, perform well in the bedroom, or not even be aroused by a real woman anymore, right? They have to go into fantasies. It has to be some hardcore stuff. And because we're dulled out, I would say, remember when you were in like middle school or like when it was like, man, even if just a girl walked by you, you were like, oh my gosh, she touched my hand, and you just felt that like go right through your body. You know, it's like, yeah, like you didn't need all this hardcore fantasies and whips and chains and all this kind of stuff, right? You didn't need that stuff. You could
Remember
just look
when
at a woman.
you were young, even if the girl just held your hand, you were excited, with a hard on right away. You know what I mean?
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. You were like rock solid, man. You were like, oh my gosh. Right.
Yeah.
And there's like a purity to that. There's a beauty to that. There's a beauty to that innocence of sex. Right. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not anti sex. I'm pro sex. I'm
That's
pro
the most beautiful
healthy,
thing ever,
natural sex.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. You cared. And then you liked her. You didn't just like, oh, want to have sex with her, but there was an innocence where you liked her. You were like, oh man, this is my girl. And that was just an innocence about it, a real wholesomeness to it. And that's
Mm.
about restoring the relationship with sex. And that's like the second way that we're making impact. So we're helping men reverse the damages, the psychological and physical damages around misuse of sexual energy, and then restoring and rewiring the brain. But the beauty is that the brain heals itself.
Mm.
So what we need to do is just allow, just like anything, you have to allow time to take its place. But what we do is we return back to the essence and the natural, healthiest form of sexuality, which actually, when you really return back to it, as I've returned back to that, is like, it's love. I'm not even really looking for sex as much as I'm looking for connection and
Yes, yes,
love.
yes.
Sex is a biological response for creating babies. What I really want is love and connection and intimacy and friendship. And that's another thing. Brotherhood is like most guys don't hang enough around other guys. Like we
Mhm.
forgot to be friends. We forgot to just go out with the boys and and not just talk about nonsense and like get high and talk about chicks and in derogatory ways, but talk about philosophy, talk about business, talk about we used to have like men's clubs that were exclusive to helping the community. How will we raise funds and build a park in the community or get together, and how will we help the temple or the church, or or how will we hey, there's a bunch of kids in our neighborhood, let's start a sports league. Like men, we used to lead these things in our community, things like the legions and these type of organizations. All these organizations are kind of dying out, and it's like, but this used to be the way that men would get together and hold each other to higher standards and serve. And so we're making impact by restoring these types. We're giving men community, holding higher standards, and then ultimately teaching leadership skills, because the way you overtake a negative habit is not what I call white knuckling it. Like, I'm just not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. It's not about suppression. It's about expression. No, take that sexual drive, take that masculinity, get healthy again, and then go be a great leader. And so we teach
Mm.
leadership skills, and leadership starts with how you're leading yourself, which then naturally translates into how you're leading your family, or the woman in your life, or the partner in your life, how you're leading your kids, how you show up in your work with your work colleagues, how you show up in your community, and that trickles out into the greater good. If we have strong men, strong fathers, husbands, brothers, strong family men, strong congregation members, strong pastors or priests or swamis, strong politicians, businessmen with high self control and high moral standards, we have a strong pillar society. Then
Mhm.
we don't get dictators. Then we don't get all the nonsense that we're seeing in the world today, because we wouldn't allow it. We
Yeah,
would say, we would tell that to quickly go away,
yeah.
because and we would also reduce overreach in government powers and such that's happening right now, because they can do that because so many of us are just too distracted. And look, it's a hard pill to swallow as a man to think, like, I remember I had to like really have that like honest conversation with myself and be like, am I really being a man right now? Smoking weed, jerking off,
Mm. Playing
doing all
video
this. Is this
games, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Is this really what it is? Like, is this what being a man is? And am I really fulfilled? And the answer was no. I had to really be honest. And that's the hardest part. The hardest part is doing the self check-in and being like, shit, like maybe there is more to life than me just chasing, the next video game level up and my next nut, and getting really serious about your duty as a man, which is to provide, protect, produce, not just physically and not just, oh, I can pay the bills, but above and beyond. Like,
Mm.
create a family legacy, create generational wealth, create, make an impact. And I'll tell you, as I've began to in my own life serve, I give a ton of time, I give a ton of time to my local church. We serve, I give inspirational talks there, we feed people, and then I give more money away now than I've ever before in my life. I help more people more before. And I'm not saying this to be like, look at me. I'm saying this is the stuff that just fulfills me. I am
Mhm.
fulfilled. I am content. I love my life. And I can genuinely say that it wasn't like that when I was chasing girls and smoking weed. I was chasing pleasure, and I mistook pleasure for fulfillment. I have way more fulfillment in my life now. And that's why it's easy to say no to like the bullshit and the drugs and the alcohol and the OnlyFans, because I'm like, I can't even, I don't have time to think about that. I'm too engaged in stuff that makes my heart come alive.
Absolutely, brother. You said some powerful things. One thing that came to mind is that we did that when guys do that, whether it's video games, weed, alcohol, porn, whatever, chasing girls, is just to also to escape reality, to seek refuge in something, to just don't want the responsibility and all of the nonsense. Another topic that is very, very, very big that I would love to maybe we can devote an entire episode just on that is what is called the silent killer, porn addiction
Mhm.
from men, especially of all ages, even more so from teenagers. I've seen so many guys, waste the potential just because they couldn't get over the addiction of porn. And that can be destructive. There's so many powerful topics. For example, I would love to dive deeper into the relationship between testosterone level in a man and porn addiction, or even just masturbating just to or
Yeah.
just random meaningless sex. These can
Yeah.
be amazing topics we can do, say, for a part two, because we
Yeah, I would
can
love to.
really, really, this is a very topic. I'm very passionate, and I would love to get more visibility, more exposure for these topics. We can really, really help men understand what is they're really getting into, not just the surface level, which is just the temporary lived pleasure. You mentioned video games, instead of chasing the next level up. Why don't you put that energy towards, say, the game of life and leveling up in a
That's right.
different level in life, not just in through a computer like this or like
Yeah.
this. You know what I mean? Oh, right, right, right,
Totally.
right, right. Swiping. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. Like, and see, like psychologists have figured that out. Like these companies, these video game companies, porn companies, they
Yeah,
know they figured out your motivators. They figured out what gets drives you. And you do want to level up. That's why you want to level up on the video game and why you want the hottest chick on the porn website, because actually you have a natural desire to do that. But you're bypassing the process of earning that, and you're
yeah,
just tricking yourself. So they play it just like gambling addiction. It's the same thing. It's all playing to your base desire. And you have to recognize that these companies, they don't have your best interest at heart.
absolutely not.
So they're just they're it's a manipulation tool. And then unfortunately we have a very crooked, in my opinion anyways, a very crooked media, and a
Oh,
very
yeah.
crooked, we don't have strong leaders who are willing to stand up to these companies and say, no, you're not going to do that to our people. So they go along with it because, they're run by the almighty dollar. But we need to stop being run by the almighty dollar and start being, there's nothing wrong with economics. Economics is a part of life. It's a good to have good economics. Get good with money, get good with finances, but stop being run by finances. And we need to be run once again by higher consciousness and higher values, because life isn't just about making money. Life is so much deeper than that. And if we spend all of our time just on base desires, we're really wasting the human form of life.
Mhm, absolutely. There's so much waste, and all of these create weak men. Look at all this, you know, we call it what? Simp nation. Look at
Yeah, yeah.
all these OnlyFans girls. Weak men create weak societies, weak women, weak foundation. Everything is goes from there.
Yeah, it's an energetic principle, right? The principle of gender, which means that there must be a masculine and a feminine to
Yeah,
have creation, procreation, and regeneration. And so when you have when men are weakened and men are not doing their duty, it creates an imbalance in the polar, in the energetic, in the way the energetics work. And that's what we have. So therefore, what ends up happening, so masculine at a higher level represents order,
yeah.
stability, strength. If men are weakened and we are not orderly, and just look around your house, like, just it'll tell you if you're orderly or not. Just look at your finances. Are they in order or not? Look at your bills. Are they in order or not? Look at, like,
Mhm.
it's not a secret, right? You can't lie. Just look around and just be like, the evidence will speak for itself. Right now, overall, Men do not have our shit together. We are not orderly, which means there's an imbalance in the energy. And feminine is the exact opposite of masculine, which means so if masculine is order, chaos is the feminine,
Mm-hmm.
right? So what do we have? We have chaos going on in our society as a whole because we have chaos in our own homes. We have chaos in like again, look like you could just simply look around at where look around your environment at home and you go, man, if it's chaotic, as within, so without. One of the first things I do is if I notice that my house is getting unorderly, I stop and I clean because I recognize that my environment is reflective of me.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
So, so for one of the first things I do, you want to feel better right away, get your house together. Again, we're not like some people think, oh, I have to go serve. Serve means I have to go, and give money to some foreign country to, no, I'm talking about basics at home. Start with like, the military, right? Start with get up at a decent time and make your bed. Why? Because you're bringing structure. It's a masculine quality, cleanliness, orderliness, putting things away. This is order. And, one of God's first laws is order, right? It's order. And
Yeah.
you don't have progress. The Brazilian flag.
I was about to say that, bro. I was about to
Yeah,
mention
yeah,
that. High
yeah,
five,
yeah,
you know?
yeah. Nice. I read your mind. The Brazilian flag,
All the progress.
order and progress. That
Yes.
that tagline in the Brazil flag is really important. Order and progress. It's the
Yes.
way for us to have a wealthy society, for us to prosper. We first have order, and order is actually a masculine quality. So it's
Mhm.
up to us men to bring order, and don't try to bring order like go and look at your neighbor and I'm going to change the
Ah,
government and change unless you have your own house in order,
that's
your
it.
own bills in order. Start at home, start with your health, and then you'll see how it'll naturally ripple effect in a positive way in all areas of your life.
Absolutely. I hired a coach last year. I paid him a lot of money. He's also a pastor in Toronto. I'll connect you to him. Amazing
Mm.
human being. The first call I had with him, he said, I was expecting some amazing business insight. He said, look at your desk, clean up your desk. I said, what? Yes, take away anything from your desk that is not gonna be helping you work and be productive. Because I usually have a bunch of books, I have two laptops side by side, I have, remotes and stuff, a bunch of stuff. He said, you need to clean that. I said, wow. At first I was almost upset. I didn't pay this kind of money to tell me that. Tell me
Yeah,
it's a business. I said, no, this is where it starts. Clean your
that's right.
house first. Clean first even your desk before you cleaning your office or your room or your house. Start micro, and then expand
Micro. That's right.
as it goes to everything.
Yeah. So the macro is reflective of the micro,
Yes.
right? So that's why it starts with you. It's the famous Gandhi line, be the change, right? Don't worry about like people are upset with the governments and the this and that. And I get it. Like I understand, like we want to see, but that's all reflective of the micro. Here's the deal. Govern yourself well, then
Yes.
govern your household well. Then naturally what happens is your influence as you govern yourself well and put yourself into order, then naturally you'll govern and put your house into order. And then you'll lead your family and your kids or your and then naturally that influence over time and consistency will expand to your work or your business. And you'll notice that you've got more influence and more impact, and then that expands to community, and then who knows how big that expansion and that influence may go. But your job is always to start with the micro, take care of the things that are important to you, take care of what's in front of you, and treat what's in front of you really well and really sacred. Be grateful and appreciative. If all you
Mm.
have is a small apartment, take care of that small apartment like it
Yes.
was a king's palace. And you will notice if you do that consistently with time, you'll get your palace. You'll get all of that will come. But you cannot bypass the foundational quality of order which is a
Mhm.
masculine quality. And again, it starts from our health, and our sexual energy is vital to that. Get that in order. If you're wasting your most vital, potent energy, your vira, your masculine potency on OnlyFans chicks and depleting yourself and just wasting that down the toilet, you're depleting your most vital nutrients, enzymes, and proteins. You're every time you ejaculate, you're releasing prolactin in your system, which is a testosterone stifler. I know we'll do another episode, but I'm kind of like preeminating like some of the biology
Yeah.
behind this and saying, actually, like when you really understand the science behind it, you'll recognize how much that is killing your
Mhm.
potential and ultimately just really damaging your life.
Absolutely, brother. Listen, fascinating conversation. We can talk for hours and hours, been over an hour and a half. But listen, let's wrap this up for today, tonight, and definitely book a part two for next week because there's so many other things that we need to cover. We need to, because this is honestly one of the things I teach my student is don't make your business transactional, make it transformational. And what you're
Mhm.
doing is transformational. You're not only transforming lives, saving lives, but ultimately even saving families, saving relationships. That's the ultimate form of, transformational business or even impact, purpose, And so this is the kind of information, the kind of knowledge, kind of wisdom that I will do whatever I can in my own humble way to spread far and wide around me and around the world. Not only through you, with you, but every other man or woman that I get across with. This is why I started my podcast to create a better world, to inspire entrepreneurs to do good, to do the right things. Because
That's
just
right.
like it starts with one person at a time, one entrepreneur at a time. I take care of my house, you take care of yours. You inspire your neighbor, your friend, the person next to you that you're talking to do the same. And before long, together we can create a ripple effect around the world, unstoppable ripple effect.
Yeah.
It's
And
our
I believe
job.
that,
Yeah.
yeah, I believe that entrepreneurs, specifically small business owners,
Hmm.
entrepreneurs, this segment of society, you're the most powerful because you create the economics
Mm.
and the way that you do business. And if you create transformational businesses, you see, no matter what someone's religion is, politics are, all of that stuff, what brings us together? Money, right? It's like
Yeah.
we could have all kinds of different perspectives, but we all come to the marketplace. We all need to come to the marketplace because we all need goods and services. So if those who are influencing the marketplace, the business owners, are operating at high levels of self integrity and consciousness, you will flourish in your business. You'll also flourish holistically, and your impact will be felt. And you'll force the politicians to get on board with the proper, with better policies that support that. And you'll also influence the rest of society to to follow a higher path. So I really believe that the business owners have the leverage point if they would use it properly or consciously.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Powerful, powerful, powerful. Listen, Nakula, I salute you. You're a true leader with a heart. Keep shining your light. Keep blessing the world. If someone wants to connect with you, what's the best way to do so?
Go to nakuladas.com. Nakuladas.com is basically a hub for, my social medias, my YouTube channel, Instagram. You can connect with me directly there. Send me a message. I
Um,
would love to connect.
all right, we'll put that in the show notes. Listen, once again, I salute you, brother. You're treated with heart. Keep shining your light. Keep blessing the world with your presence, your impact, your gifts. Remember, you yourself, Nicola, you're a gift. So keep shining it, keep spreading it loud and proud around you and around the world. I'm very much looking forward to our next conversation. And I have a feeling that we will have quite a few conversations because what you're doing is really beautiful, it's transformational, it's life-changing. And this is the kind of information that the world needs, that men, not just men, but men and women need that to create a better, just to take care of their house, their own relationships, so they both can understand the sacredness of sex, of energy. Sex is more just than a physical act. Once I understood that, it changed my life,
Mhm.
and we need to spread this information to as many people as possible so we can create better houses, better relationships, better world.
Love it.
Salute you, brother. Stay safe, stay awesome. God bless you. Talk to you soon. Cheers.